So I knew about you very vaguely. When did you get involved with community projects that led to the swimming pool? Were you in there right from the beginning?
Right from the very beginning. It started in September of 1976,
Right.
when the new head teacher, Mr. Turner, came to Dowdales.
Right.
I had a son there, and I, along with my wife and many others, went to the hall to meet him soon after he'd started. He'd come from one of the big conurbations of Birmingham,
Right.
where there were much sporting facilities. And he said to us, after talking about the education side, I've come to Dalton and found hardly anything at all. And one of my visions is, he said, was a swimming pool in Dalton. At which my wife nearly knocked me off my chair and said, well, you ought to volunteer. Because I used to teach in Barrow as well as Dalton. And Barrow schools in primary level had about 80 visits in the school year to Barrow Pool. And at that time, before the reorganisation in 1974, Dalton were given 10. If they were lucky, the buses came. So when 1974 came and we were taken over by Barrow Borough Council, I argued that we are paying the rates to Barrow, we should have parity with those schools in Barrow. They didn't agree. They said, well, if we give you more time, we have to have less time.
Right.
So nothing came.
Right. Okay.
So in 1976, when he came along, as my wife said, I wanted swimming for Dalton children, volunteer, so I did.
Right.
And we started off in 1977, I suppose it'd be by then. We got together a small ad hoc committee of about 12 of us, a few politicians, but mainly not politicians, of men and women who were interested in pursuing the idea of a swimming pool.
Now, when you said we, does that really mean I?
No, Mel Turner was the chairman, and I, along with a few others, either had been asked to take part or volunteered to be part of this.
So how many would you say were the really active people in that group who pulled everybody else in?
4 or 5, something like that.
About 5 of you, yeah?
Yeah.
And did you know each other beforehand?
Not really. Not really.
So it was a common purpose.
The common purpose was to pursue the provision of a swimming pool in Dalton.
Yeah.
That was what we set out to do.
And how many of those 5 were actually politicians?
Only 2, I think.
Yeah,
One Labour,
okay.
one Tory.
Right.
Few businessmen, sportsmen, the head of the night school in Alderston, Jim Lindo, in Barrow, Dalton here, Jim Lindo. So we're all interested in pursuing the idea, that was it.
Yeah.
And so that led to us pursuing it and then opening it out to public meetings in Dalton.
Yeah.
To see what sort of enthusiasm there was.
And that's still in 1970s, late 1970s.
So those public meetings were 1977 or 8, something like that. With the result, to condense it, we set up a vast building fund. And our mainstay of raising money was we approached every house, more or less, in the old urban district of Dalton. That included Lindell, Marton, Askham, Isleworth, Dalton itself, and Newton, to ask them would they consider donating, say, 10 pence or 20 pence a week.
So how many of you went round all these houses?
We set up that and we finished up with about 55 to 60 people responsible for one or more street in all that area.
Wow, yeah.
And that started in September of 1979.
Right.
Collecting weekly or monthly or whatever, mainly 10 pences a week, sometimes 20.
I'll bring it later.
Collecting it every Saturday in the old town hall, and then eventually our office above the shop we had, and that was a mainstay.
So
and
who
that
was
started in September 1979 and it ended in May of 1987. Went non-stop, week in, week out.
And who was the driving force behind all that work?
Bill Proctor was a retired, he was an accountant at that time, and he was the main financial wizard.
Yeah.
And he's only just recently retired from here. And he was a main man for the financial side.
Right.
I was appointed as chairman of the fundraising committee.
Right. Okay.
And so, in addition to that, which was a mainstay, every fundraising event we could think of, we either as a committee arranged, or very often individuals or groups throughout Dalton started raising money.
So how many hours a week would you say you were putting in on average over that period?
Could have been 3, 4, 5, 6 hours.
Consistently over, what, 10 years?
For a long period.
Yeah.
So I was the chairman of the fundraising committee. And then we had another committee, which was a Bass Action Committee, which formed into the Trust Committee, who did all the clerical work and all the pushing of everything except fundraising.
Right, yeah.
And the way this was built was through the Manpower Services Commission.
Right.
You may remember what happened with that was that the government paid for all the labour.
Right.
But we, as an individual or groups, had to provide all the money for the labour, for the materials. So that's the way it worked.
And who supervised? You employed an architect here to direct the work?
We had an architect. We didn't have a clerk of works. No, we couldn't afford it. But we had an architect, Craig and Green at Barrow, designed the building.
Yeah.
And it was all done, as you may know, the Manpower Services Commission was really set up to employ unemployed people.
Right.
So they learnt on the job.
So who was your clerk of works?
Well, we didn't have a clerk of works.
Well, somebody did it.
Well, we didn't really. We just had the man who was in charge of the building. Yeah. And that he was in the way of the clerk of works, but he wasn't an official clerk of works.
No, but
he was a brickie. Who
who
knew
was
how to build.
Still
and I forgot his
working full time, was he?
Yes.
Yeah, and
we had 2 different ones, I think, over the period. It took 5 years to build.
Yeah.
Started in October of 1982, by which time we'd raised a lot of money, and enough to provide the materials for at least every 12 months. And so the building started in October 1982 with the Manpower Services Commission. That was renewed every year, provided we had to prove that we'd enough money to provide the materials for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
So that went on, and they finished the work in about May or June of 1987.
Well, was there never a time when the project might not have gone forward?
Yes, a few, because we didn't borrow any money at all. We decided at the very beginning we wouldn't borrow money, because we realised we'd have to pay it back. So all the money we were going to get had to come either fundraising or by donations. And we had to go to the council, Borough Council, and the County Council, and wherever we could, to get money regularly to make sure we could continue. And once or twice during that period, it was a near-do that, well, we can't go any forward because we haven't got enough money left. But we did. We got money. Barrow arranged finally a loan to us that they would pay back, because that was the last 15 or so thousand. And I remember as we left the council building, Bill Proctor and myself, he said, I don't honestly know how you'll cope, because I can't see a leisure centre or swimming pool making money. Well, we didn't know either at that time. But this is what we have. 25 years later.
It's absolutely brilliant. I get the impression that you're financially viable now.
Very financially viable.
And that's quite amazing, bearing in mind the times we're going through.
That's right. We have made money regularly over the year because we are totally dependent upon ourselves. We don't get any money from anywhere else, except occasionally we ask them for a donation and we might get some. So the latest project, of course, is this splash zone.
That's right.
We had 3 or 4 keen members of staff who saw that this was a possibility to improve the facilities and attract more children and adults into the pool. And they raised more than half the money that was needed for that project.
Now we're looking around and the pool's being used. It's lunchtime, it's just after 1 o'clock. That's full. We look around here and we've got the whole place full up with children from Dale School. So you're bringing in income here?
That's right. Plus other people who come just to eat.
Right.
So this is the backbone of our
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
We have children in all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
and Friday morning.
Yeah.
From the local schools, some from Barrow as well.
Yeah.
But all the old urban district councillors, Dalton and Kirby and Barrow schools, and they are our backbone for the finance.
So how did the playground come about?
The playground originally, what was out there until the beginning of last year, was provided mainly by us. We started off having to provide not only...
Initially there was nothing there, was there?
There was a small playground that had been there as a war memorial.
Oh, right.
We moved it, its position, its site farther over, and we provided, when we say we, our trust.
So did you own that land?
No,
initially?
we've always leased the land. It was Dalton Council's land, you see.
Right, but
then
you administered it.
And then when Barrow took over in 1974,
yeah.
they sort of owned it.
Yeah.
Now, when we were pursuing about getting the pool, we approached the council for money and other things, and they, amongst other sites, they said that they would loan us this land. They would lease this land to us, so we have it all the way. So, but we had to initially cut the grass, provide the playground equipment and everything. Not only that, to do this as well, and like me, volunteers, we had to do that. But Princess Margaret, who was photographed up there, she came as an official opener 3 weeks after we'd opened, and we pleaded with the council to come and help us to prepare the land. And that resulted in an unofficial way, the council keeping the playground reasonably tidy.